Hit subscribe if you like long, slow-burn horror stories from tribal law enforcement. Drop a like and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Because tonight, I'm going to tell you why we do not answer calls from Dry River Road after midnight. My name is Daniel Blackhorse. I spent 20 years with the Red Butte Tribal Police in northern New Mexico. We patrol about 3,000 square miles of reservation, high desert, mesas, arroyos, little clusters of houses where one family has lived for generations. Out here, help is usually 30 minutes away, sometimes an hour. If something bad happens, it's your neighbors and your own hands that decide if you make it to morning. Most of my career was the usual small-town cop grind. Drunk uncle fights at family gatherings, meth labs in double-wide trailers, kids joyriding in stolen pickups, cows standing in the middle of the highway at 2 a.m. But there's one stretch of road on our map that's different. It's about 4 miles of cracked asphalt and rusted guardrail where a river used to run, until the dam broke in 1972. On our internal patrol map, someone long before my time wrote in red ink, Sector 12, Dry River Road. Do not answer calls after 0000 hours. The rookies laugh at that when they first see it. They think it's a joke. I did too, until I worked nights there. Now, if my radio ever crackles after midnight and the GPS pings from that bridge, I turn the volume down and I pretend I didn't hear it. This is the story of how I learned to do that. I joined Red Butte Tribal Police in 1995. Back then, our headquarters was a squat concrete building that used to be a BIA maintenance shed. We had 8 officers, 2 patrol SUVs that sort of worked, and a dispatcher's room that was basically an old office with a pile of radios in it. Our night dispatcher was Marta, in her 40s then. Short, square shoulders, hair always in a messy bun. She'd been doing the job since before I was born. You didn't question Marta about roads or addresses. If she said, take the dirt track by the broken windmill, you just did it. Marta had a photo on her desk of a young man in a tribal police uniform, early 20s, dark hair, confident grin. The frame was always turned face down. I didn't ask why. I was 2 weeks off field training the first time I took a full night shift. My partner was Officer Joe Redfeather, 15 years on the job, mustache, perpetual squint. Joe talked slow, walked slow, and could go from half asleep to deadly serious in one heartbeat. We were parked behind the casino around 11:30 p.m., eating cold burritos and watching the sky. A thunderstorm was dying off over the mesas. Throwing dull flashes of heat lightning, Joe had the radio volume turned low, just a background hiss. Enjoy these nights, he said. No snow, no drunks yet, radio quiet. In January, we're gonna miss this. Honestly, I'm bored, I said. Thought being a cop would be more car chases and less burrito farts. He snorted. Careful what you wish for. The bad calls stick to you. Right on cue, the radio crackled louder. Unit 3, dispatch. Joe picked up the mic. Go ahead, dispatch. Marta's voice came through, slightly fuzzy. Got a 1031, possible stranded motorist, caller reports RV broke down on... She paused. We heard keyboard clacking. On Dry River Road Bridge, timestamp 2348. Joe's hand tightened on the mic. Repeat last, dispatch. Stranded RV on the Dry River Bridge. Caller is a white male, gave name Kevin Hargrove. Says wife and 2 kids with him. They were passing through, took the back road on their GPS. Engine died on the bridge, won't restart. I glanced at Joe. He looked off. Not scared exactly. More like someone just mentioned an ex he never got over. What's the problem? I asked. It's just a welfare check. He didn't answer me. Dispatch, what's their situation? He asked. Any threats? Traffic hazard? Marta answered, and something in her voice made my skin prickle. Caller sounded shaken, said he could hear water under the bridge and it was getting higher. I told him the river's been dry since '72. He insisted he heard it. Then he said there was knocking on the side of the RV. Static. A background echo, like another voice far away. Call dropped after that. I tried ringing back. No answer. GPS from the cell tower puts them right on the bridge. I mouthed, "Knocking?" at Joe. He ignored me, staring at the windshield like he could see all the way to that bridge. "Copy," he said curtly. "We're 1076, en route." He hung up the mic, put his burrito in the cup holder, and shifted into drive. "All right," I said. "Spooky Bridge. Here we come." He gave me a look. "We'll go. But we're not staying there past midnight, no matter what. Understood?" "Why? Gremlins come out after 12? I'm serious, Black Horse." His tone snapped like a twig. "When that clock hits 00, if we're still on that road, we leave. I don't care if the RV's on fire." That wasn't just superstition. That was policy in a voice. I shrugged, playing it off. "Sure, Sarge. We'll be out by Cinderella time." But I filed it away. The first rule of Dry River Road: don't be there at midnight. 2. Approaching the bridge. We headed north, headlights carving tunnels through the night. The storm was far behind us now, just a low, occasional rumble. At the turnoff to Dry River Road, the highway lamps ended. The world shrank to 2 fingers of light and the faint outline of mesas. Joe slowed as he made the turn. The truck's dashboard clock flipped to 23:55. He muttered something under his breath in Navajo. I caught only one word: tow, water. "You okay?" I asked. "Fine," he said, in a way that meant not fine at all. "Check the GPS." I studied the little green screen wedged onto the dash. Our unit icon crawled along a thin gray line labeled County 9/Dry River Road. Next to it, a blinking dot, the RV. "Quarter mile ahead," I said. "Dead center of the bridge." The first weird thing I noticed was the sound. As the road started to dip toward the riverbed, a faint rushing noise filtered in through the vents. At first I thought it was wind, but the air outside was dead still. Hot, barely moving. It sounded like far-off rapids, not loud, just there. "Is that water?" I asked. "Don't worry about it," Joe said, eyes front. "Maybe there's a leak from the dam," I said, trying to be logical. "Or some storm runoff." "The dam's been gone since before you were born," he snapped. "Oh, right." A moment later, more quietly, I said, "Joe, what actually happened there, with the dam?" He inhaled through his nose, slow. "We'll talk about it if we make it back before midnight," he said. "Not before." Reassuring, the bridge appeared ahead as a dark scar across the pale ribbon of the empty riverbed. Guardrails bent, paint peeled, big rectangular joints where the segments met. The RV sat in the middle like a fat white tick. We rolled up behind it and stopped. I checked the clock, 23:58. "Plenty of time," I said. Joe didn't answer. He shut off our light bar, left the engine idling, and unbuckled his seatbelt. "Remember," he said, "we go in together, no splitting up, no wandering off to check something out. If I say we leave, we leave." "I get it," I said. "Officer Safety 101. He stared at me. "No," he said, "you don't get it, but you will." 3. Inside the RV. The night hit me like a wall when I stepped out. You know that feeling when you walk into a swimming pool at night and the sound changes? It was like that, muffled, slightly echoing. The riverbed below us, visible between the bars of the guardrail, was bone dry. Cracked mud illuminated by our headlights like broken pottery, but the sound of rushing water was clearer now, like standing in a building with pipes in the walls. "Sergeant Blackhorse, Red Butte Tribal Police," I called, walking toward the RV's door. "Mr. Hargrove? Ma'am? Kids, call out." No response. As I passed the front of the RV, my flashlight beam slid across the asphalt and stopped on wet footprints. They were as clear as if someone had just stepped out of a swimming pool. Small, bare feet, child-sized. They started just beneath the RV's side door, walked 3 steps toward us, then simply ended. No drying, no smudging. The last set of toes was perfectly defined. After that, dry, chalky dust again. "Joe," I said. "I see them," he said, without looking down. "Keep moving." He rapped 3 times on the metal door with his mag light. "Tribal Police," he barked. "We're coming in." He tried the handle. It turned easily. The second he pulled the door open, the smell rolled out. Wet silt, algae, decaying vegetation. Not rotting food, not sewage. River. A river that had never been inside this vehicle. The carpet under our boots felt cool. Not soaked, but like it had recently been damp. "Police," Joe called again as we stepped in. "Announce yourselves." I'd expected the stereotypical RV interior. Maybe it was because I'd seen too many road trip movies. But this was exactly that. Cramped kitchen to the left, dinette to the right, hallway leading to the back. 4 plates on the table. Half-eaten spaghetti. Glasses with ice melting in soda. A deck of Uno cards spread out. Everything felt abandoned mid-moment. "Clear back," Joe ordered. "I've got front." I moved down the corridor, checking the tiny bathroom. The bunks, nobody. No bags packed in a hurry, no scattered clothes, shoes in the footwells, small sneakers and adult hiking boots, neatly lined up. In the far back bedroom, the covers on the bed were thrown back, but that was it. I rejoined Joe near the kitchenette. "Empty," I said. Like they just walked out and evaporated. He was staring at the windows. Every single one of them was covered in wet handprints on the inside. Not just a couple. Dozens, layered over each other. Some big, some tiny, all smeared downward, leaving long, dark streaks. "They were trying to get out," I said, throat dry. "Or something was trying to get in," Joe muttered. Our radios crackled. "Unit 3 status check," Marta's voice came. Calm, but I heard a slight tremble. "You're approaching midnight." Joe grabbed his mic. "We're inside the RV. No occupants, no sign of them outside either. He stopped. A new sound had joined the background hiss. Tiny at first, muffled, like someone talking from another room with the door closed. "Unit 7, this is dispatch. River level at 37 feet and rising. Repeat, 37 and..." The voice wasn't Marta's. It was a man's, fast and clipped. With that old-school radio tone, another voice cut in. "Female. Bus still on East Bank. We have multiple children trapped inside. We need someone on Dry River Bridge now." The hair along my arms lifted. The sound wasn't coming from our radios. It was coming from overhead. I looked up. An old CB unit was bolted above the RV's windshield. Power light off, no cable plugged in. Dust on the knobs. Yet the speaker was alive with static and those distant voices. "Is that another channel bleeding through?" I whispered. Joe stepped closer, his face suddenly older. "That's not another channel," he said quietly. "That's an old call." The male voice came again, frantic now. "Luis, you gotta get off that bridge. The water's over the guardrail, you hear me? Get off the..." Static swallowed him. I looked at Joe. "Who the hell is Luis?" He didn't answer. His eyes were locked on that dead CB like it might bite him. "Joe?" I pressed. He swallowed. Marta's husband, he said at last. I blinked. Her husband? The one in the picture? He nodded slowly. He was on duty the night the dam broke. Before I could respond, the CB crackled hard enough to make us both flinch. A new voice, deeper, calmer, but strained, came through. Dispatch, this is Unit 7. I'm on the bridge. Water's moving too fast. I can't... The bus, it's stuck. There was a roar, a sharp squeal of metal, and then only static. The CB's power light flickered red for a heartbeat. Then the whole unit went dead. Just a dark box again. Our own radios were silent. We stood there in the dim RV, breathing the cold smell of river muck that shouldn't exist, watching wet handprints slide slowly down the glass. Something knocked once underneath the floor. A hollow, metallic boom that vibrated up through my boots. Joe didn't hesitate. We're done, he said sharply. Out. Now. What if they're trapped under... Now. I followed him because that tone comes out of a cop only when he's certain that staying one more second is a bad idea. We backed down the steps, out into the open air. The sound of water was louder outside. My brain told me logically that there was nothing down there, 30 years of drought and silt, but my ears insisted there was a river in full flood under my feet. As we reached our Tahoe, both our radios screamed. Unit 3, get off that bridge right now. Marta's voice. Not calm. Not professional, she was shouting. Joe practically dove into the driver's seat, one hand slapping the lights on. What's going on, dispatch? He snapped. We're fine, vehicle's empty, but no, you're not fine, she said. Your GPS disappeared for 3 minutes. I had no unit on Dry River Road. Radio went dead on my end, and I heard something. The last word came out in a whisper. 3 minutes, I said. We were only in there for maybe 60 seconds. Check your watch, Joe said. I did. The digital numbers read 00:04. My gut dropped. Joe, it was 23:58 when we got out of the truck. He didn't answer. He threw our SUV into reverse and burned half the rubber off our tires getting off that bridge. Only when Dry River Road had shrunk to a line in the rearview mirror did he ease off the gas. Don't say anything over the radio, he muttered. Not yet. 4. The RV that never was. By sunrise, the bridge looked like just another piece of old infrastructure. County deputies went out there with us at 9 a.m. The RV was gone. No tire tracks showing it had driven off. No debris. No water, no handprints. Just the old cracked asphalt. I thought maybe someone had stolen it in the night, a tow truck, a joyride, something. Marta came out to meet us with a folder. Got some bad news, she said. She showed us the 911 call log. The call from Kevin Hargrove was listed. Timestamp 23:48. Duration 32 seconds. Status dropped. Beneath it, the number. We tried it. A recorded message told us the line was not in service. We ran the name. No Hargroves matching that age or family size in any state database linked to that number. Then the kicker. About an hour into the search, a tow yard in Gallup faxed over a registration form. They had an RV on their lot. Same make, model, and VIN as the one Joe and I had walked inside last night. It had been impounded there for a month for unpaid storage fees. The plates were the same as what I'd written in my notebook from the RV on the bridge. Joe stared at the paper for a long time. That's not possible, I said. Get used to that phrase, he replied. He walked away and lit a cigarette. Even though he'd supposedly quit 5 years earlier that night, around 2 a.m., Marta called me from dispatch. Her voice was quiet. I heard him again, she said. Luis, on a channel that doesn't exist. What did he say? I asked. She swallowed. He said, Tell them not to come. It's not for the living anymore. The rule about not answering calls from Dry River Road after midnight stopped being funny after that. The man who avoided the river. 3 weeks passed. The bridge faded back into background unease. Life kept happening. People still got drunk and fought kids, still stole cars. Bills still had to be paid. Then Tommy GRAYWOLF went missing. Tommy was what you'd call res tough. Mid-50s, thin from hard work, hands like leather, ran about 100 head of cattle on tribal lease land near the north boundary. He wasn't the sort of man you worried about. He'd once walked 10 miles home with a broken ankle because the truck needed the gas more than I needed the doctor. But Tommy had one fear. He would not cross the Dry River Bridge. Not in daylight, not in a caravan, not even with a funeral procession. He'd drive 30 extra miles of dirt track to skirt it. More than once, I'd seen him pull up on the far side while we were working a wreck, stop, turn around, and leave without a word. When I teased him about it once during a traffic stop, "What's the matter, Tommy? Bridge troll charge too much toll?" He gave me a look I won't forget. He said, "My grandfather pulled bodies out of that river in '72. Says it took more than it was owed. Says it remembers. Says one of ours slipped the ledger. River's patient. Someday it'll call in the balance." After that, I didn't tease him. So when his wife called at 9:17 p.m. on a Friday and Marta patched it to us, I paid attention. "Tommy didn't come home from town," she said, voice tight. "He was supposed to get feed and be back before dark. His truck's not here. He's not answering his phone." "Did he say which route he was taking?" I asked. "He never tells me," she said. "But he doesn't like that bridge, you know that. He always goes the long way." Marta pinged his phone for GPS. Daniel," she said slowly over the radio. "His last ping is on Dry River Road." My stomach went cold. "Maybe he stopped to help someone," I said, more to myself than anyone. "Maybe the river got tired of waiting," Marta whispered, forgetting to let go of the mic. 6. The message on the truck. This time, I wasn't with Joe. He'd swapped shifts to watch his kids' school recital. I had Officer Lena Yazzie riding shotgun. Lena was 26, college-educated, sharpest shooter on our tiny force. She'd grown up on the res, left for Albuquerque, then came back when her younger brother started getting into gang trouble. Skeletons of storm clouds clung to the horizon as we sped toward Dry River Road. Heat lightning flickered behind them. "You've got that I'd rather be anywhere else face," Lena said, watching me. "That obvious?" "Yeah." "What's the deal with this road? Everybody tenses up when Marta says the name." I debated how much to tell her. She'd only been on full duty a few months. "You ever hear the recording?" I asked. "What recording?" "Ask Marta sometime," I said. "Her husband's last call." Lena frowned. "That flood was forever ago. Man, we gonna let a busted dam scare us off a welfare check?" I wished she was right. By the time we neared the bridge, the sky was full dark. Our headlights washed over the sagging guardrails. Tommy's F-250 sat sideways in the center of the bridge, nose pointing toward the opposite bank, driver's door wide open. There was something wrong with how it sat, not just the angle. The truck seemed too clean under our lights, like it was in a different frame of the film than the road around it. "I don't like this," Lena muttered. "Join the club," I said. "Let's keep it by the book." We stopped about 20 yards back. I killed our siren, left the engine running. The night felt thick, dry desert air, but with that underlying coolness that told my instincts there should have been water nearby. We walked up on either side, shining our lights into the cab. Empty. Keys in the ignition. A bag of feed sacks in the back. Tommy's old ball cap on the seat. The floor mat under the pedals was damp. like he'd stepped in something wet and tracked it in on the passenger door. Scrawled with a dripping finger in muddy water was a message. Still do. Every letter leaned like it had been written in a moving vehicle. Still do, Lena read aloud. Do what? Debt, I said. My mouth felt dry. Old one. What old debt? She asked. I thought of Tommy's story about the bus, the bodies, his aunt who should have drowned but didn't. You don't want to know right now, I said. Look at the ground. Wet, bare footprints again. This time, clearly adult-sized. They started at the driver's door, crossed to the center line, then walked straight down the middle of the bridge at about 3/4 of the way across. They turned, neat as you please, toward the right-hand rail and continued down the side of the bridge support, vertically, like the wall was a slope. They disappeared into the cracked mud below. Okay, Lena said. That's new. We'll mark that in the report as unknown direction of travel, I said. My radio hissed. Unit 2, sit rep? Marta asked. We've got Tommy's vehicle on the bridge, doors open, no sign of him, I said. Looks like he went over the side on foot somehow. My voice cut off, not because I stopped talking, because something overrode the channel. It sounded like someone had turned the volume knob inside my skull. A woman's voice whispered over the radio, every word thick with choking river gurgle. You took my children. It wasn't directed at me. It wasn't using call signs. It was just a statement, soft and venomous. Say again, I said automatically. Identify yourself. Lena's eyes were huge. She could hear it too. The voice came again, louder. You took my children. You built a wall, and you made the water wait, and then you set it free. Static crackled like distant thunder. Another voice barged through. Male, shouting, panicked. Bridge is going. The bus is going. My God, the bus! I recognized that tone. The same voice from the RV. The old recording that shouldn't exist. Then both cut off. The radio went back to normal hiss. Dispatch, did you copy that? I asked. Silence. Then Marta, sounding shaken. Copy. Something. My board just lit up like a Christmas tree. Multiple channels open and none of them ours. Lena whispered, We should not be here. She was right. The hairs on my neck felt like a static ball. Okay, I said. We call this in, tow the truck in the morning, do a search in daylight. That's it? She demanded. We just let Tommy walk off into whatever that was. You want to climb down there right now? I snapped. In the dark, with voices on the radio and footprints on the walls. She hesitated, then shook her head. Nope, I'm good. The first knock came just as we were turning back toward our SUV. Deep, hollow from below. 3 even beats, spaced like someone knocking on a door. The vibrations came up through the soles of my boots. We both froze. That's just metal flexing, I said, even as my gut screamed liar. The knocks came again, faster. The sound of someone impatient. My flashlight beam flicked across the guardrail. For one split second, I saw a pale hand pressed against the underside of the rail from below. Fingers spread, skin wrinkled and water swollen. The beam trembled and I lost it. Okay, we're done, Lena said. We're so done. Let's go. We didn't run. Not quite. But our walk back to the Tahoe was several degrees sharper than casual. We climbed in. I started the engine. It coughed once before turning over. As I put it in gear, my eyes flicked to the dashboard clock. 22:13. We had time. That was the worst part. Dry River wasn't waiting for midnight to get our attention anymore. 7. The search that found nothing. We did everything by the book after that. We called for search and rescue at first light. We brought in dogs, volunteers, even a borrowed helicopter from the county. We followed the riverbed for 5 miles in both directions, climbing over boulders and through tamarisk thickets. No tracks beyond the base of the bridge. No torn clothing snagged on rocks. No body caught in culverts or under driftwood. It was like the footprints walked off the bridge into something that wasn't our reality and just kept going. Tommy's wife, Elaine, came down on the second day to watch the search. She was a small woman, but the kind of small packed tight with steel. She stood with her arms folded, jaw set, eyes scanning the same empty mud we'd been scanning. "He wouldn't leave on purpose," she said. "He wouldn't. Not after what happened to his aunt." "What did happen?" I asked softly. Elaine glanced sideways at me. Her eyes had that look you see in people who have put off saying something for a long time. "In '72, she said, "the school sent the bus across the river even though there was a storm watch. They said the dam would hold. My husband's aunt, Clara, was supposed to be on that bus. She got sick that morning. Fever, she stayed home." She pointed at the dry riverbed. "That bus went down there, with 22 kids and 2 teachers. They say it got caught on the bridge when it collapsed, then the whole mess went downstream and slammed into the canyon wall." Her voice stayed steady. "They never found the bus. Not a piece, not a lunchbox, nothing. Just some bodies." "And Clara?" I asked. "She used to wake up screaming," Elaine said, "saying she could hear the water calling her name. 'You're late,' she said it told her, 'you're late, but I can wait.'" A shiver ran through me. When Tommy was a kid, they told him the river still had a name in its book that it never got to collect, that someone in the family would have to pay it back one day. He never took it seriously, but he never crossed that bridge either. She stared at the cracked mud below, shoulders stiff. "When I saw the message on his truck door," she said, "still do, I knew. The river was done being patient." She turned and walked away before I could say anything. The next part of this story, this is where it stops being strange and starts being something I still can't say out loud without looking over my shoulder. Because the river didn't just want one man or one family. It wanted us all to remember. 8. The Circle. Under the bridge. 6 months after Tommy disappeared, the seniors at our high school graduated. Around here, that's a big deal. Not every kid makes it that far. I was on the late shift with Lena again. Joe had moved to days by then. Marta was still our night dispatcher. At 22:30, County sent a message through. "Red Butte, we got a call from a tourist on Highway 14. Says he saw a bunch of kids having a bonfire down in the dry riverbed by the old bridge. Technically, your jurisdiction. We're tied up on a rollover. Can you check it out?" Lena groaned. Of course, the class of 2001 picks the cursed river for their party. "Kids like doing dumb, forbidden things," I said. "We were exactly the same." "Yeah, well, we didn't have a haunted bridge," she muttered. Marta broke in. "Unit 2, just get them out of there before midnight. I'm not babysitting their ghosts." We laughed. We shouldn't have. The moon was a thin sliver, not much help. Our headlights stretched ahead in 2 pale spears as we rolled toward the barricades that nominally closed the road County had put up. "Road closed, bridge unsafe" signs. Teenagers had helpfully decorated them with spray paint and beer cans. We pushed past the barrier and crept forward. No flicker of firelight. No thump of bass from a speaker. The bridge sat in the dark like a hunched animal. "Maybe they left," Lena said. "Maybe," I said. Then we heard it. Laughter. Clear, bright, unmistakable, drifting up from below the bridge. Not one person. Many. High-pitched, overlapping teenagers. "Okay, that's our party," Lena said. "Let's crash it." We parked before the bridge, took our flashlights, and walked to the guardrail I shined my beam down. There was no bonfire, no coolers, no tents, no trucks backing up with their tailgates open. Only the dried riverbed, about 5 feet deep, cracked mud under a dusting of sand, a few sickly shrubs, and in the exact center, under the bridge, a patch of wet ground the size of a small swimming pool, shining like black glass, standing. Ankle deep in that was a circle of people. Their clothes didn't match each other, like someone had grabbed random outfits from different decades. A boy in a Letterman jacket from the 80s, a little girl in a 70s plaid dress, a woman in a 60s church hat, a man in a tan sheriff's uniform, badge dark with age, a teenage boy in a modern hoodie I recognized from the high school's merch table, a gray-haired woman in a long 1950s skirt, and there, hand in hand with them, wearing an old tribal PD jacket soaked to the elbows, was Luis, Marta's husband. Their feet were submerged in the shimmering mud. Their pants and skirts above the knee were completely dry. They were dancing but slow, like a music box winding down, turning in a circle, smiling at each other, laughing too big, mouths too wide. The sound of rushing water was much louder here. Though the riverbed outside their circle was as dry as dead bone, Lena's nails dug into my arm. "Do you see my cousin?" she whispered. I scanned the faces. The boy in the modern hoodie. Yeah, that was Tyler, her cousin, who'd died in a car crash on the highway 2 years earlier. He shouldn't have been there. "Stay calm," I said automatically. My voice sounded thin. Luis looked up. Even from that distance, in our flashlights, I saw his face clearly. He'd been a young man in the photo on Marta's desk. He looked the same now. Zero aging. Same strong jaw, same lopsided smile. He raised his free hand and waved at us like we'd just bumped into him at the grocery store. The laughter stopped abruptly. All the heads turned upward at once. That kind of instant, jerky movement that people don't do, but animals sometimes do. Dozens of eyes stared at us. For a breath, nobody moved. Then my radio crackled. "Daniel," Luis's voice said in my ear, wet and gurgling, coming straight from the speaker pinned to my chest. "Come down. We saved you a place." The woman in the church hat spoke at the same time, her mouth barely moving, her voice echoing from Lena's radio. "You took our crossing," she said. "You took our bridge. We're still waiting to get to the other side." My tongue felt like it was glued to the roof of my mouth. "This is Sergeant Blackhorse," I managed. "You're trespassing on tribal land. You need to leave." It was a stupid thing to say, but my training had nothing in the manual for ghost rave in the riverbed. Luis laughed. It sounded like someone blowing bubbles in a glass of water. "We can't leave," he said gently. "The river hasn't finished with us." The mud around their legs reached mid-thigh now. They were sinking slowly, but their smiles never changed. Tyler, Lena's cousin, raised his head. His neck stretched too far back, vertebrae bending at an impossible angle. His eyes were pure black, like 2 deep holes drilled into his skull. "We're almost paid up," he said. His voice came from both radios at once. Lena lost it. "Tyler," she screamed. "What are you doing down there? Get out!" He smiled at her with too many teeth I saw his lips move. "Come down, Lena." But what came out of the radios was a child's voice saying, "We're still due." The circle started to sink faster. The shiny mud lapped at their chests now. The laughter resumed, louder and more distorted, as if it were echoing off tunnel walls. I grabbed Lena's shoulder. "We're leaving," I said. "Now." She stayed frozen, fingers white on the guardrail. "Lena," I barked, eyes on me. "That is not your cousin. That's something wearing him like a mask. We are not going down there." Her gaze tore away from the circle. Tears streaked her face. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." We backed away from the guardrail. All the heads in the circle tilted to follow us, necks craning unnaturally, like owls. The mud rose faster. By the time we reached our Tahoe, all that was visible were faces, still smiling. Then eyes. Then nothing. The wet patch shrank, rippled, and became just cracked mud again. The laughter cut off mid-peel. The sound of rushing water faded to a whisper. My watch beeped. 23:59. "Get in the car," Lena said. "Get in the car, get in the car, get in." We got in. The engine didn't start. 9. Flood time. I turned the key. The starter clicked once and died. Dash lights dimmed. Interior lights flickered, turned a sickly blue for a second, then went out. "Battery?" Lena whispered. "It was fine 10 minutes ago." I snapped. I tried again. Nothing. In the sudden silence, the roar of invisible water swelled, filling the air, vibrating the steering wheel under my hands. The hair on my arms lay flat, pressed by pressure I could feel but not see. Outside, fog rolled in from the empty riverbed like dry ice smoke, thick, low, curling. It poured under the bridge and onto the road in a solid mass, fast, too fast to be natural. Within seconds, our Tahoe was an island in a white ocean. I could barely see the hood ornament. "Okay, nope," Lena said. "This is some Silent Hill bull." 3 heavy knocks hit the driver's side door. The whole SUV rocked. My breath caught in my throat. Another 3 on the rear quarter panel. Another 3 on the roof. Knock, knock, knock. Each one perfectly spaced. The knocks didn't sound like fists on metal. They sounded deeper, like boulders hitting hull plating. Wet handprints formed on my side window, one after another, not left behind, appearing. Splat. 5 fingers, palm, all dripping with dark water that streaked downward in rivulets. Then another smeared on top of it, and another. Within seconds, my window was a mess of overlapping muddy prints, sliding slowly down the glass. The locks on all 4 doors clicked up on their own. Lena slapped her hands down on the manual lock tabs. "Nope, nope, nope," she hissed. "We are not opening anything." My radio came alive. Not with words at first, with breathing. Wet, labored breathing, like lungs full of water. Then a child's voice, high and cold. "Open up. We've been waiting so long." It giggled, a dozen other giggles chimed in, distorted by static. On top of that came another voice, older female, breaking like a bad signal. "You took my children, officer. We've been standing in this river for 30 years. Don't you think it's their turn to come out?" The Tahoe rocked again. The knocks came from the roof. This time I half expected the metal to cave in. Lena was hyperventilating. "They're gonna flip us. They're gonna drag us off. Listen," I said, forcing my voice steady. "We're not in their element yet. We're on the road. This is our ground. They're trying to get us to open the doors ourselves." "How do you know?" She snapped. "I don't," I admitted. But if they could just rip the doors off, they would have already. It wasn't comforting, but it was the only logic I had. The fog thickened, sliding across the windshield in oily sheets. For a dizzy second, I saw dark shapes moving in it. Long, serpentine, like something huge swimming just below the surface. My watch beeped. 00. The radio screamed. Every channel went live at once. Snatches of transmissions overlapped. Water over the roadway. I can't see the bus. Luis, get out of there. Mommy, I'm scared. Thunder cracked right above us, though the sky was clear before the fog. Something grabbed my ankle. I looked down. Water was seeping through the floor mat. Not a leak. The carpet itself was turning into river mud around my boots. Cold shot up my leg. Nope, I said out loud to nobody. We're not doing this. Doing what? Lena demanded. Drowning in a parked car, I said. We're getting out. She stared at me like I'd lost my mind. Out where? Into the fog? Do you see any other options? She glanced at her feet. Her boots were dry. It was just my side. Maybe it just wants you, she muttered. Don't care, I said. Better odds out there than in here. I took a breath that felt like one before a cliff jump. On 3, I said. We unlock, open, and run straight. Don't stop. Don't look back. Aim for where the road meets the dirt, away from the bridge. How do we know which way that is? Lena asked. I pointed at the faint glow of our headlights in the fog. Forward, I said. Away from the direction of the riverbed. Trust your feet. Trust my... Okay, she said. Fine. On 3. I counted. 1, 2. The third knock came. Harder than any before, right over my head. 3, I said, and yanked the door handle. The door flew open like it had been waiting. Fog slammed into me, cold and thick. It tasted metallic on my tongue, like old coins and wet stone. For a moment, I couldn't see at all. My eyes burned. Run! I yelled. I stumbled forward, boots slipping. Hands brushed my arms, clammy and slick. Fingers grabbed at my belt, my jacket. Voices whispered directly into my ears. Stay! Stay! We're almost full. I shoved forward blindly. My foot hit solid ground, then gravel. The sound of rushing water peaked, deafening, then dropped away all at once. I burst out of the fog like someone had pulled a sheet off my head. The sky was clear again. Stars, moonslice, crickets. The road stretched ahead, empty. Behind me, the fog boiled around the bridge. But it stopped at an invisible line about 10 feet from where I stood. Lena staggered out beside me, coughing. We both spun around. The bridge was wrapped in swirling mist. I could see the faint shape of our Tahoe inside, outlines blurred. For a moment in the fog, I saw silhouettes moving along the rail. Small figures, hands reaching out. Then, with a sound like a sucked breath, the fog collapsed in on itself and vanished. Our Tahoe sat alone on the bridge. Doors closed, windows clear. No dents, no handprints, no water. The roar of the flood was gone. My watch read 0004. Lena started laughing. It sounded more like sobbing. We almost died in a dry river, she said. Do you hear how stupid that is? Tell that to the kids on the bus, I said quietly. We walked to the barricade on foot, leaving the Tahoe where it was. Neither of us wanted to cross that invisible line again. Marta picked us up. We didn't tell County why we'd abandoned a perfectly good SUV. We just told them it had mechanical issues. 10. Marta's Story, 1972. Flashback episode. You can read separately. I didn't know the full story of the 1972 flood until a week later. You could make this its own separate video. I'm a tribal dispatcher. I took a call in 1972 that never ended. That night, after we'd showered off mud that wasn't really there and slept badly, Lena and I went back to the station on our day off. Marta was at the console as always, wearing her old green cardigan, coffee mug near her elbow. Got a minute? I asked. She looked at us, saw the set to our faces, and sighed. I've been waiting for you to ask, she said. She turned off one of the radio banks, not all of them, never all, and swiveled her chair. There's the official story of the 72 flood, she said, and there's the one that never made it into the reports. She nodded at the photo frame on her desk, the one that was always face down. She flipped it up. Luis looked out at us, frozen in his crisp uniform, hat tilted back, smile sure. You know the Corps of Engineers dam up at Cedar Ridge? She asked. I nodded. They built it to control flash floods after that big one in '65. Yeah, only they overcorrected. That winter of '71, we had heavy snow in the mountains. Spring melt filled that dam up like a bathtub. Instead of slowly letting the water out all along, they kept it high. She sipped coffee, eyes distant. June '72, storm comes in, big one. Dumps inches of rain on already saturated ground. Up at the dam, the engineers say it's fine. We keep getting calls about water lapping at the spillway. They say it's fine. Her jaw tightened. School has a field trip that day. One bus full of kids from the res, one from town. Our bus is running late, kids staying after to pick up lunches, that sort of thing. She tapped her nails on the desk. I was a new dispatcher then, 19. Luis had just made patrol. He stopped by here that morning, kissed me, said he'd be back for dinner. She looked at us. He never made it back. She picked up a worn cassette tape from a drawer the label had flaked off. This isn't an official recording, she said. Officially, we didn't record radio traffic in '72, but our chief liked tinkering with electronics. He rigged up a tape deck to one of the scanners just to see if it would work. It happened to be running that day. She put the tape in an old boombox, hit play, hiss. Static, then a young man's voice, sharp with adrenaline. Dispatch, this is Unit 7. I'm 2 minutes out from Dry River Bridge. Water's already over the lower culverts. You might want to get county to close the... A burst of static cut him off. Another voice came in, higher, on the edge of panic. We've got a bus stuck on the east approach. Repeat, bus stuck. Kids inside. Water's over the tires. Who's that? Lena asked. County deputy, Marta said. Halloran, he didn't make it either. The tape crackled. Luis again. Unit 7 to dispatch, I'm on scene. Water's up to the bottom of the bus windows. Driver says engine died. Kids are still inside, some in the aisle. I'm going to try to get them out through the back. Marta's own younger voice came through. Shaky, but professional. Copy, Unit 7. Be advised, dam reports they're doing an emergency release to relieve pressure. They promise it'll be controlled. Luis swore, muffled. You tell them to shut that damn gate, Marta. I'm standing here looking at... The roar that cut him off was so loud I flinched, even knowing it was decades old. On the tape, you could hear metal screaming, kids screaming, water hitting something hard, then Luis shouting over it. It's over the guardrail. It's over the guardrail. The bridge is going. I can't... Static. I looked at Marta. She wasn't crying. Her face was like stone. That was the last time I heard him, she said. On this side of the river, anyway. She stopped the tape. They never found the bus, she said. They found some bodies stuck in debris miles downstream. Not all. Not his. She rubbed her forehead. My grandmother said the river wasn't running right. Said it had been chained up for years behind that dam. Getting angrier. Said when they finally let it loose all at once, it wasn't just water that came down. It was all that anger. She looked at us. And anger doesn't go away, she said. It waits in low places. It remembers. I told her everything we'd seen under the bridge, the circle. Luis, her husband, waving like he'd never left. Marta listened without interrupting. When I finished, she took a deep breath. I'm the one who wrote the note on the map, she said. about not answering calls from Dry River after midnight. I got tired of losing officers there. Lost more than Luis? Lena asked. She nodded. 2 more over the years. Both thought they could outsmart the river, or prove it was all superstition. Both disappeared. She closed her eyes for a second. If the dead are stuck there, fine. If the river wants names on its ledger, fine. But it's not getting any more of my people if I can help it. She fixed me with a steady look. So, next time that road pings your GPS after midnight, she said, what are you going to do? I didn't answer then, but I knew. 11. Closing the road. After the fog incident, the circle, and the almost flood, we pushed hard to get Dry River Road shut down. A miracle happened. The bureaucracy agreed. The county engineers declared the bridge structurally unsound. The state said they had no budget to repair it. The tribal council, some of whom had lost relatives in '72, voted unanimously to close vehicle access. They put up concrete barricades, metal gates, and more road-closed signs than you'd think existed in the whole state officially. The reason was money and safety. Unofficially, everyone had heard at least one story. Enough whispers had piled up that people were ready to let the bridge sit and rot. Inside the department, we wrote a quiet addendum to our policy manual. Units will not respond to any calls originating on Dry River Road between mile markers 4 and 8 between 0000 and 0500 unless directly ordered by the chief. The chief never gave that order. Most nights, the radios were normal. On some, we still heard things. Whispers, snatches of old transmissions. A child's voice saying, "We're still due," followed by static. We logged them. We didn't go. I retired 10 years later. My knees hurt from too many miles on bad roads. My hair went salt and pepper. New rookies came in, looked at the red ink warning on the map, and laughed the way I once had. I'd sit them down. Tell them about the RV, about Tommy, about the circle in the riverbed. Some believed. Some smiled politely and went on with their lives. That's okay. The rules don't care if you believe in them. On my last week, I went out to the bridge one more time. Daylight only. Full sun, sky big and blue. The barricades were there, graffiti tagged, bullet-pocked. The bridge itself sagged a little more. The concrete had hairline cracks. Rust bled from the joints. The riverbed was as empty as ever. I walked out just far enough to look down at the support column where the waterline stains ended. Names were carved there. Dozens of them, in layers. Some were neat, cut with knives by trembling hands. Others were rough, like someone had scratched them in a hurry with rocks. I recognized some from the old memorial plaque in town. Others from missing person bulletins. Near the bottom, in small letters, someone had carved Tommy GRAYWOLF. Under all the names, in even smaller writing, someone had added, paid in full. The question mark was deep, angry. I stood there for a while. I took a small pebble from my pocket, something I'd picked up at the base of the dam years ago on a training exercise. I tossed it gently into the dry riverbed. It hit the mud with a splash. No water, no ripples, just the sound. That was enough for me. I turned and left people ask me if I believe in ghosts. I tell them it's not about ghosts. Ghosts are ideas with sheets thrown over them. Sad and lonely things. What lives under Dry River Bridge is older and heavier than that. It's memory given weight. It's a debt written in water. A dam went up, a river got choked. People made promises about safety they shouldn't have made. Lives were taken all at once, out of turn. And the river kept the receipt. Closing the road, putting up barricades, adding red ink to a patrol map. That's our way of finally acknowledging the bill. Maybe, in another 50 years, the stories will fade. The concrete will crumble. The kids will think of Dry River as nothing more than a cool, spooky place to sneak beers. But if you ever come through northern New Mexico and you see a faded, unofficial sign that says no response after midnight, maybe don't test it. Because if your car dies on a bridge over a river that isn't there, if you hear knocking on the walls and water on a dry night, if your radio crackles with voices from decades ago saying a bus is going down, know this. You're standing where the ledger still isn't sure if it's paid in full, and somewhere, deep under that dry mud, a river is whispering, "You're late, but I can wait."